Hello and welcome to the Coaching Chapters podcast, the space where ideas turn into actions and dreams become reality. I'm your host, Beenish Mirza, and in each episode, I will sit down with some really wonderful, incredible women who've taken a spark of inspiration and transformed into something so meaningful. These are real stories of purpose, passion, and perseverance. So wherever you're listening from, settle in and get ready to be inspired. I am so excited to introduce this week's guest. It's someone who is so special to me, and it's someone whose work has been a quiet grounding force in my own personal and professional journey. LaYinka Sanni is a coach, a trainer, a facilitator, and now she's a published author of her debut book, A Beautiful Homecoming. It's released through Q Publishing, again a publisher whose works I absolutely love. I still remember turning into LaYinka's podcast on Honesty Tea Talks many years ago, and I was in complete awe of her courage, her honesty, her vulnerability, and what she brought to those conversations and who she was at those tables. Those episodes have stayed with me for so many years, and I've loved watching her own personal journey unfold. She is so genuine and so inspirational in how she tries to support other women show up more authentically in this world. So when I received a little message from LaYinka a couple of months ago about her upcoming book, I was so overwhelmed, I was so excited and deeply grateful. So Assalamu alaikum, Sister LaYinka. Thank you so much for letting me share your story with everybody today. So let's kickstart. I'd love to hear if you could just share a little bit more about yourself.
Alaikum salam, Venice. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for the invitation. A little bit about myself. Well, I am Nigerian born, UK bred. Was born in Nigeria, brought to the UK when I was 2. So I've lived in the UK pretty much all my life. But a year that I lived in Egypt. I am a mother of 3 humans and 2 little cats. My eldest are 21 and 19. My youngest is almost 10. And it just feels like kind of like just an incredible journey to get to this place of who and where I am. Considering I've got I feel like many of us, such a rich history, but I'm grateful that I bring all of that into my work in coaching and consulting, in personal development and leadership development.
Fantastic. So many different layers, so many different hats you wear, LaYinka. And so let's start off and talk a bit about your book then. So A Beautiful Homecoming. Can you tell us a bit more about the title, and I guess where did the idea originally come from?
So this book I feel maybe it's been brewing inside me for a long time. The idea of actually compiling a book came from my desire to have a way to help and support women to come home to themselves and deepen their relationship with themselves and their creator beyond my lifespan. So up until the point where I made a formal decision to write the book, I'd been doing a lot of self-discovery work, had multiple programs that I had run that had evolved over time. And I remember in one of my programs, one of my clients actually used the term, "This feels like I finally come home. This feels like it feels like a homecoming." And when she said that, it highlighted to me something that I'd really struggled with grappling with up until that point, which was how do I capture the essence of this work that I get to do? And she said that, and that was like the ping of recognition. Yes, this is what it is. The essence of it, however it looks, the essence is to support women to come home to themselves. And so I held on to that. That stuck. And so when it came to writing this book, I already had the title. I remember getting a journal out at the time, and I put A Beautiful Homecoming in the center and did a spidergram of all the different topics that this book would contain, but the title was already set. Alhamdulillah, my publisher did not change it. It stuck with them to when I came to present it to them several years later. But that's the origin story of how this book came about. This desire that I want women to be able to do this work long after I'm gone. How do I get to, I guess, memorialize it? How do I get to condense and bring all of the work, the essence of the work together, and to make it practical so that they can do it solo? And if they need support with a therapist or another coach or whatever, that's also accessible, but it's practical enough for them to be able to do themselves and safe enough for them to be able to do themselves, and get some, inshallah, I'm hoping, some useful results for themselves.
Wow, I love that. So starting off with the title, it sounds like the title was your intention to make this real.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it came from the title of what's the desire here? What's the hope? I hope that the hope and aim for every woman who gets to come across and read this book.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that inspiration you got from that person that said to you, you know, I feel like it's my homecoming, a beautiful homecoming. But did you always have that belief inside you that there's a book hidden inside, deep down inside, that you're bursting to take out, or did it sort of evolve over time?
I've always been told I should write a book. I'd always been told by my audience and clients, why do you not have a book out yet? And I think up until the point of making the decision, it was just well, there are so many other books out there. You know, there are a plethora of books on self-help that one can access and get a similar result, right? So why do I have to do the work to do that? But I do have a history of writing. So I am an actual published writer in terms of I had articles published in print and online. So the idea of writing wasn't alien to me. It wasn't something that felt uh, overwhelming per se. But up at that point, I had not written in a long, long time because I'd switched a lot of my content to video. I hadn't written long form. So everything had been short form captions or short form posts, but not long form. So there was this, I have to write a whole book. That did feel daunting. I'm gonna be completely honest. It did feel daunting to now have to switch gears from short form content to a long form piece.
Mm. And I guess those challenges then, how did you go about overcoming your challenges? Were there any other failures or challenges you faced along the way?
Well, I hired a first draft mentor. So I hired someone, and I'll give her a shout out, Khadija Haley. She's an incredible book coach. I call her a book doula, to help you to birth your book. Allahu Barik. I knew that I needed her in my life. I wasn't I wasn't unfamiliar with her because she'd actually been one of my editors at Sisters magazine way back in the day when I was writing for them. So I knew of her. But I knew I couldn't do it alone because my self-talk tried to convince me that it was going to be really, really hard to convert from short form to long form. So I hired her and I said, hey, this is my idea. This is what I want to do. And we had a commitment to work together for 8 weeks to get an ugly first draft in 8 weeks. So yeah, that's how I overcame my initial mind block. But then when it came to actually writing, I faced this challenge of, and I described it to her as trying to squeeze words out of a stone. It felt like the words that I really wanted to say wouldn't come. And it may have been a case of overthinking. and also thinking about all the possible people and women who I'd love to benefit from this book. And one of the things she actually said to me that was really, really helpful was to just think of one person. Think of one person you're writing for. Zero in on her. Envision her. What are her actual challenges? What are the things she's really struggling with? And she helped me to take that to the next level by actually telling me, write a letter from her to you. So write a letter from your ideal reader, this person that you're really aiming to support and help through this book, to yourself, as if she's telling you about her woes, her challenges, where she's at, her heartache, and just pour that onto a page. And then write her a reply. And that really helped me to get clear on the challenge of the woman who I know will be reading this book. And then also what I really wanted to tell her. It solidified the voice of the book as well. So the voice of the book, it's got a very specific voice, like I'm speaking to the person. And Khadija's direction at the beginning really helped that, to just nail who, why, and how are you going to accomplish this. Yes, it was hard at first because I had to get into a writing rhythm. So much so that one day I woke up and I said, I'm going to Istanbul. I'm going to Istanbul to write. Literally woke up at 8 o'clock in the morning, booked my flight, was on my way 5 o'clock in the evening that day. Called my mom and said, Mom, listen, handle the kids. I'm going to Turkey for a week. And I went, and it was nice to just be away from my normal environment. Words definitely flowed a little bit better there. The beginnings of the book were formulated in Istanbul, subhanAllah.
Sounds like that mindset shift and the combination of the environment you were with that mentorship, and really putting yourself in the shoes of your potential reader and the problems that they face and what they would need to hear from like a best friend, really. What is it that can support them? Sounds like it really helps support you get into that flow. And I know a lot of your book covers that spiritual, emotional, um, lens to it. Can you tell us a bit more about that piece of it? Did Turkey really inspire that, or where did that inspiration come from?
It came really from the heart of my belief that our work on ourselves cannot be separated from our relationship with our Creator. Because ultimately, all good comes from Him, right? All success comes from Him, all healing comes from Him. And to move us away from what we can sometimes see in the mainstream self-help genre of books, where it's all self-centered and you are the center of your own life, which can then need to be very egotistical. So in line with faith, with Islam, where God is the beginning and He's the end, then how is He intertwined and very much part of our growth journey, of our healing journey, of our coming home journey? And what does that look like? I feel that a journey devoid of God is an empty one. Like, it's shallow and it's hollow. It's really full when we recognize how much of this is really about and from and with Him. And I wanted to include that in the book. To be honest, when I first wrote the first draft of the book, I referred to God by God. But there was a point in time where I really wanted it to be unapologetically Allah, like calling Him by His name, untainted, and really just owning it. I've had readers who are not Muslim who have read the book and have just done this thing of translating Allah back to God in their heads. which is cool. And it helps me to see how for some it can feel accessible if they're open to accessing faith-based books. But um, I, I, I felt like it was part of my authenticity in using the term Allah, being okay with using verses from the Quran and traditions from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and knowing who I initially wrote it for, which was the Muslim woman. Can any other woman benefit? Of course, if she's open to, to faith-based book. But I felt like I needed to be also authentic to myself, which is very much in line with the book itself about authenticity and being your authentic self.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And so your ideal reader, we know it's a Muslim woman or women who are interested in that faith-based self-development. Can you tell me a bit more about, who you would like to really pick up this book and what you'd like them to take away from it?
So I would say the book is for women who feel disconnected from themselves, women who have and recognize how many responsibilities they have, how many roles they play, and how much of themselves they pour into those roles, those responsibilities, and how there may be an imbalance in how much they give themselves, how much they show up for themselves. And the ultimate message and takeaway that the book is aiming to provide is a way and a path back to a home within that allows them to feel connected to themselves, but also recognize that wherever they are safe because they are safe with themselves. And that can be really powerful for women, especially those of us from cultures where selflessness has been championed, putting yourself, like laying yourself out for the benefit of others, being a martyr for the benefit of others has been championed. That's what we saw growing up. That's how we saw our mothers and our mothers' mothers. And we want to create a new blueprint of how to be and who to be for ourselves and for others that doesn't erase us and who we are.
Yeah, that's so powerful, right? Because you're saying actually selflessness is not the only way to get reward. Looking after yourself, prioritizing yourself, there's so much reward in that.
Yeah.
And that's where that spiritual, more faith-based layer comes onto it. There is reward in that. Yeah, no, thank you. And a beautiful homecoming, what does it mean to you? What do those words mean for you?
Mm. A beautiful homecoming means to me that the homecoming journey can feel challenging, especially because we have to lay out and expose certain truths of how we've been, who we've been, what decisions we've made, what we've allowed, what we have held back and denied ourselves of. And that can feel really challenging to admit. And also knowing that from this admission, from this acknowledgement and this awareness creates an opening. And I say in the book, similar to a seed growing into a beautiful rose, right? The beginnings of that comes from like the beginning of the beautiful rose that you get to have the gorgeous scent of, and it can adorn a space. It comes from a seed that had to split. It came from pain. And from that splitting, from that pain, birthed the opportunity for that beautiful rose that we get to sniff and look at and love. And similar to that, the birthing of ourselves that can feel really challenging. And, we've all got our different flavors and shapes and sizes and intensities of challenges. That comes from that end thing, that end journey, that end result that we get is really beautiful. So beautiful doesn't mean painless. Beautiful doesn't mean easy. Beautiful doesn't mean it's going to be like a walk in the park. But beautiful means it's worth it. And we are worth it.
Beautiful doesn't mean easy. How has writing the book changed you? How has the book changed your view of, I guess, beautiful?
I think has writing the book has changed me from the perspective of being okay with facing into challenges and helping people to do that, and not feeling guilty for the discomfort that can come forth as a result of that. I come from a history of people pleasing, right? And so I want people to be okay. I've got the hippie. I want you to feel loved. I want you to feel good. And so writing the first part of the book was really hard because I'm helping the ladies lay it out. We're laying it out. We're being honest. We're being raw. We're exposing ourselves to ourselves. And even when I was reading the book and recording it for the audiobook, I had to step out of the studio after chapter 2. I was like, oh my goodness, it feels like I'm just, it doesn't, my heart wants to hold every woman who gets to read, listen to this, because one thing to read it and it's another thing to hear it. But my heart just felt, I need to take. So I can only imagine what the women who are going to listen to this need to, like, they're going to need to take a breather and they're going to need to take a moment. But also being okay with that and calming my own and regulating my own nervous system to say, remember why you did this and remember why you're doing this. It's not to hurt people. It's not to harm. And I say that in the introduction. I know that it may be challenging to read some of this, but I love you. And that's why I want better for you. I want you to see how much better you can have for yourself and how much better you can be for yourself. And the book has helped me to see the love that can be from holding a mirror up to someone, as challenging as that can feel, but also doing that for myself, lovingly holding up a mirror for myself and to say, hey, look into the eyes of the woman there. What do you see? And what do you want her to know? And how do you want to see different eyes in future? What are the different eyes you want to see? What's the story you want the eyes in future to tell you when you look at yourself in your reflection?
And just then, as you were speaking, those questions you asked, they're such deep, reflective questions we can all ask ourselves by simply looking in that mirror, asking those questions. And your passion to support other women is so evident in the way you speak, in the way you tell and share your story. And I would actually take it to your cover, that beautiful cover that you have on your book.
Mm.
Who does that represent?
It's interesting because the cover went through an evolution. The first version of the cover that I was presented with, I was like, that looks like Voldemort. Didn't like it. Oh. But it's interesting because I sent the cover designer, shout out to Afreen. She's incredible to work with, mashallah. The direction that I had was, I want there to be an embodiment of light and for it to depict the light that exists within and how much that light reverberates around her. And all the awesomeness that she has to bring into the world. I specifically wanted her chin to be up and her face to be towards the sky. Yes, in a depiction of her connection with her Lord, but also her connection with herself, that her head is held up high. And that is how she chooses to navigate the world, not from a place of arrogance, but from a place of grounding. And I look at the cover, I'm like, wow, she did such a great job in nailing it. Alhamdulillah. She really captured the essence of what I want that woman who reads the book to believe she can be and embody by the end of her journey with it.
And if for anyone that hasn't seen the book, go look at the cover. I was so surprised and shocked how you can feel the glow. You can feel that noor, that light coming off of this woman. And I was so surprised at how graphics could do that. I love the cover. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I think it goes so beautifully with your book. So yeah, well done for that. And so I guess what advice would you give women sitting on a story or truth that they're afraid to share, that they're afraid to be vulnerable about or open up about?
Mm. Whenever we think about opening up and vulnerability, we often think about it from a place of telling other people, right? Exposing ourselves to other people, bearing ourselves to other people. And it's that notion that actually makes the idea of vulnerability really daunting, because it feels exposing, it feels like nakedness, and it feels like one may be in a state of weakness and being taken advantage of, seeing as less than, weak, incompetent, etc. And I like to flip it and say that actually the journey actually starts with us admitting to ourselves, getting really clear with ourselves where we're at, what our challenges are, not from a place of wanting to wallow, but from a place of deeply understanding, acknowledging, and owning it within ourselves without the presence of shame. And that part is really important, because we can say, oh, I'm in such a place right now. How can I be here? I shouldn't be here. I should be further along. I shouldn't be struggling with this. And all of that is just a shame storm. But being able to say, you know what, this is where I am. And then also being able to take that to Allah, to take that to God and saying, this is where I am. There is an opening that does, because it allows us to recognize that, yes, this is where I am, but also I don't desire to be here as well. So it's not just a wallowing. If someone has a story inside them, I would say be bold and just write it down. Even if it's just some bullet points, note it down. You never know what can come from it. And often, sometimes, our stories that we write are for us first and foremost. We've all got a rich tapestry of history behind us, every single one of us. You don't have to have gone through abuse or like a capital T trauma to have a rich history. Every single one of us has a rich history, but because we've forgotten and we don't necessarily reflect, especially those of us who are high achievers, is always on to the next thing, right? We don't really pay attention to our triumphs, to the things that we once found really challenging that are now possibilities and easy for us, the things that we once told ourselves we couldn't do that have become our reality, hardships that we've traversed, battle scars that we have as proof of our resilience and strength. I don't think enough of us take time to sit and document that for ourselves, not even for other people, but just for ourselves. And I feel that every single one of us has a story for ourselves, to be able then to take that in our relationship with our creator, to say, thank you so much. Thank you for supporting me through this chapter and this chapter. And I forgot about that chapter. And this chapter felt really hard, but you brought me ease. And this chapter felt really impossible, but you granted openings. And I was so flat on the ground here, but you lifted me up. Every single one of us has stories like that. Every single one. Whether they're major or minor, we all have them. And it's for us to remember. I remember a friend saying to me in an interview, she said, oh, tell me about your journey. And I said, you know what? This was a while ago, but I said, you know what? I don't think I actually sit and deep my journey. I don't think I sit and reflect on what my life's journey has been up until this point. And I do a disservice to myself by not doing that. And I think we all do a disservice to ourselves.
And that whole part around it's for us, actually, let's tell ourselves that story. That's what your book does so beautifully. It's like this aid and this guide to start telling your own story to yourself. And it doesn't have to be heavy. It can be your own lived experiences, but they're your lived experiences that need to be heard by you. That's what your book does so nicely. It's such a lovely guide, and I completely would encourage everyone. And I agree with you. If you're not Muslim, you can still pick up the book and get so much from it. But actually, if you are Muslim, that faith lens on it, not being a heavy Islamic text, it's so wonderful. And I think there's so much of it that's still needed. So thank you, LaYinka. So tell us a bit about your book then. So where can we get it from in the UAE, in the UK, globally? How can people get hold of your book?
When you said UAE, I felt like banging my head on the wall, because I'm at present, at the time of speaking, I'm really trying to work with a particular distributor to make it possible for ladies in the UAE to get it easily. Although I don't personally endorse Amazon, I know that some ladies have managed to grab a copy via that platform. But just Googling A Beautiful Homecoming LaYinka, and I would highly recommend A Beautiful Homecoming LaYinka as opposed to just A Beautiful Homecoming, because there is a fiction book called Homecoming, and that sometimes comes up in the search results. And just see where it might be available to you. It's where all good books are sold. So I know that if for those in the States, since in Barnes and Noble, for those in the UK, Waterstones, Foyle, W.H. Smith. So it's across various platforms to be able to get out to you. I just can't speak specifically for the UAE at the time of speaking, because we're still working on that.
Fantastic. So keep following Sister LaYinka on Instagram and her socials so you can keep up to date with where that's going to be available. And then once I know as well, I will share it with you all. And so what's next for you, Sister LaYinka? What are you going to be doing next? Is there more books on the horizon, more podcasts? Tell us a little bit more.
It's interesting. When I finished writing A Beautiful Homecoming, I wrapped up the first draft. And it was not pretty as a first draft. But when I wrapped up the first draft, immediately a book came to me for teen girls. So I've outlined a summary of what that book would look like. I outlined that in 2020. So it's 5 years later. I haven't worked on it. But it still feels like it would be a meaningful project. So I'm going to take that to Allah in terms of getting started on that. May or may not work with Khadija again to get the first draft of that. But as a next project, that is what is calling to my heart. I want to talk to the teen version of LaYinka.
I think that's very exciting and very much needed again. So I think that whole mindset of getting into the shoes of your reader and the problems that they need, I think I'm going to pinch that that idea. I'm going to finish that tour myself now and figure out actually who do I need to write letters to and how can I support them.
Yeah, it makes so much difference. And it really helps you just to have that heart connection to your people rather than just head.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been so lovely to hear your journey, your story, and just sharing a bit more about the books from, your own voice. And this is why I love hearing from authors because there's so much more that goes with the text that you're reading, the story
Mm.
behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing your story and more so letting me share your story with others.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, Banish.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode and found LaYinka's words as grounding and inspiring as I did. If her journey and her themes from A Beautiful Homecoming resonated with you, or if you'd like to know more about her book and get a signed copy, I'm excited to share that I'll be hosting a women's empowering and networking event with LaYinka in London on Friday the 18th of July at the wonderful Casa Cafe. It's going to be an intimate, powerful evening of connection, reflection, and meaningful conversations. So if this sounds like something you'd like to be part of, please reach out to me or head over to the coaching chapters on Instagram to find out more. Spaces are limited, so do get in touch. We'd absolutely love to welcome you there and continue this conversation and journey together. Thank you so much for tuning into the Coaching Chapters podcast. I hope today's conversation left you feeling inspired and reminded you of what's possible when you follow your own calling, your own passion. If you love this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave us a review. And remember, every big journey starts with a small idea, a small passion, and a small calling for purpose.